Hi, I'm Dr. Jessica Higgins, and this is the Empowered Relationship Podcast, where we explore how to cultivate long lasting intimacy and secure functioning in relationship. Today, we are talking about what happens before even beginning to communicate or doing mindset work. The daily rhythms that shape your energy, your capacity, and your availability for closeness. Hadlee Garrison is a holistic health counselor, behavior change expert who blends evidence-based habit science with somatic and Ayurvedic wisdom. She helps people regulate their nervous systems and return to their bodies with more compassion and consistency. If you'd like to strengthen your relationship with more clarity and care, download the free relationship guide, 12 Relationship Principles to Strengthen Your Love, to practice the foundations of secure, lasting connection. You'll find powerful ways to deepen trust, improve communication, and keep love alive. Let's get started. Hadlee, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Me too. And we've already met when I was on your show that you co-host. And also, we've been looking forward to this interview for a while. We're going to be talking about the physical sense of emotional individual safety, how that correlates with creating relational safety. Also, how this relates to energy management, and also how we can build habits as both for an individual, but also in the relational context that supports the safety and energy management. So I'm looking forward to this. Where would you like people to know about you? Is there anything about how these particular topics became of interest?
Oh, yeah. So when I was coming of age, growing up, I grew up in a family that was very into personal development, that was very into health and wellness. But I had a really tough relationship with food and my body, and feeling like I could even follow through on any of the health things. So I had a lot of knowledge about what you were quote unquote supposed to do for your health. And I had my friends would come to me for advice on like what they, should do for their health and all of that kind of thing. But
You
from
were
the
a
time,
proficient coach, but when
yeah, right.
I
But
think
not necessarily doing it myself. And there was a lot of perfectionism, all or nothing for me. A lot. I wanted to be the best at whatever I did,
Mhm.
and so from the time I was 10, I didn't like my body. I didn't like how my body looked. I was also emotional eating. By the time I was 10, looking back now, I'm like, oh, I was such a sensitive kid, but even my family of origin, like the label of sensitivity actually went to my sister, and
Mm.
I was looked at as not that sensitive. And so there was a lot. There was a
Mhm.
lot there. And I was actually very effective in kind of getting rid of or just suppressing my emotions with eating, with turning to food. And so I was really disconnected from my body, my emotions, all of the things, because I would turn to food and different things to numb out. Like I read a lot as a kid, and even that, like my parents would be like, Hadley, you have to spend time with us. You can't just escape into a book and like only read. So there were different numbing things that I did. I've heard before the people say the good girl's drug is food. And so there was a lot tied up in my health, how I looked, all of that kind of thing. And by the time I was in college, I was really struggling with this stuff because there's not a lot of structure in college. Classes are at all different times. I went to University of Michigan, and like the motto there is kind of work hard, play hard. No rest involved. It was work
Mm.
hard, play hard, have fun. So there wasn't a lot of taking care of yourself. And So by the time I was there, I was like, okay, I know all of this stuff. Why am I not doing it? And I would be on the wagon and then fall completely off the wagon and on and off and on and off. And it was exhausting. It was so exhausting. And so I decided to actually I was studying biopsychology, cognition, and neuroscience in undergrad, and I decided to go to grad school for public health and specifically to study behavior change science, health
Mhm.
behavior, and health education, because I was like, I want to figure this out. I know, again, I know what I should be doing for my health, but I'm not doing it. And I started talking to people and they were like, yeah, same. Like, I don't know why I'm not doing the things that I know I need to be doing for myself. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to get to the bottom of this.
Mhm.
And that's why I went to school for that specifically, and learned all about why we do what we do, why we don't do the things that we know are good for us, why we do the things that we know aren't good for us, all of those things. And came out with a degree in that and started helping people with not just the what to do for your health, because we get enough of that, right? If you're on Instagram, if you're on social media, or even like podcasts and stuff, like you probably learn about the what to do. But my passion has become actually helping you do it.
Mhm. So with your graduate, or would you call it a graduate degree or in public health? Okay. So with that degree, were you able to apply it to your being able to integrate the learning and support your system?
Totally. Yeah. So that paired with the coaching certifications that I've gotten. So I've gotten a number of coaching certifications as well. I was able to kind of integrate the actual the coaching part of things and then the behavior change science, which was a little bit more academic and less applied. So I kind of brought both of those things into my work, the coaching and the behavior change science.
I'm super interested in how you're going to support us because I love having evidence-based, just understanding as well as how to make it actionable and practices. And when you're sharing a little bit more about your experience, one of the ways I'm interpreting it is in your family system, it wasn't quite visible, your sensitivity. So perhaps the support or the validation was going to your sister, and then you were seemingly coping well, right? From on
Yes.
the outside. Yeah, internally, there was still a lot of ways in which, as you said, you were kind of tamping down or even suppressing. And so, really coming to a place around, I really want to support my system to not be maybe needing to cope in these ways or just the kind of what's interfering, the blocks that interfere with the things that I'm really wanting and also how I'm really experiencing life. So was there an emotional component?
Oh, yes.
Okay, great.
Absolutely. And I realized I was introduced to Ayurveda in college. Actually, my mom introduced me to Ayurveda. She's wonderful. She just didn't know I was going through all of this stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And I found that there was a huge emotional component, but I wasn't able to access the emotional component until I was tuned into my body.
Mhm.
And so that's where I love to bring in the somatic stuff, as far as I love to bring in like the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda and different ancient traditions that are similar around the world, which is so cool. And then I also love to bring in the very, Western modern science evidence-based stuff and pair those things together, because I always like to look at it as like, if both the modern science and the ancient wisdom are saying the same thing, like, then we've got truth there. Like,
Yeah.
so like let's focus on those things that they're both saying are true. And I find that when we focus on those things, that's when we kind of unlock the safety, the nervous system regulation and the feelings of safety and in ourselves and in relation.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I want to dive in. And before I ask my first question, I want to just reflect. I'm sure this fits that a lot of times, as you mentioned, maybe perfectionism or the intellect, that we approach our lives through this intellectual frame, which I think has value. So I don't want to take away
Totally.
goals or strategies or visioning. And also, we can somehow be convinced that we can override. I think a lot of people feel that they should be able to will themselves override their nervous system, not get triggered or activated. And yet, always, I never say always and ever, but always the nervous system will be in the driver's seat. We're just wired up. We're humans, we're animals, our system, survival. Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so passionate about this because I grew up, my parents were really into the personal development, mindset work, mindset. And like basically, like you have only you can control your emotions. They're very like into like Tony Robbins and like just a more, that was the time, right? Like we weren't talking as much about like somatic work and nervous system regulation and all of that kind of thing at that time. It was all very mental and mindset approach. And I find, I love learning about like metaphysical stuff and like manifestation and I think that stuff is interesting. But I get frustrated because I'm like, if you don't have some of these basic habits and wellness things down, you can do all the mindset work you want, but your nervous system will not catch up to that. You have to start with the body. Like you really, really do. And then you can have fun with all of the mindset work and, do all of that stuff, which I love. But yeah, we have to really, really go into the body and the physiology and the habits that can support us there, the structure that can support us in our physiology can be the thing that opens us up to be able to live the mindset work all the time. Because otherwise, we're going to be having to do mindset work all day, every day.
Well, they're related, right? They're interconnected, and we can't just ignore the
Yes.
body. And I'm hearing your strong emphasis around just the importance. So, as we pivot here, so looking at the nervous system and that being a huge contributor as we look at relationship, being a bit more available for connection or even negotiating conflicts more skillfully. Can you talk to us a little bit about how I mean, some of us, again, know this, but talk
Right.
to us a little bit here about the importance of regulating and tuning into the body and the nervous system.
Totally. Well, I think, your listeners, when they think about when they've had the most conflict in their relationships, you can kind of think about, okay, where were you? How were you feeling before that happened? Were you at the brink of, just kind of at the edge of feeling fried with your nervous system feeling just like everything feels hard and stressful? And so likely that's usually the case. Not always. Like sometimes it's something happens that just triggers something from way back and that will just, move that conflict forward. But a lot of times when we're in conflict, it's because we're kind of at the edge of our our capacity. So
Mm.
my goal for my clients is to create more capacity, bandwidth, energy, so that they can have the kinds of relationships that they want to have, that they can, pursue their passions and their purpose and in life and just have a day-to-day experience of life that they enjoy, essentially.
Mhm.
And so I start with the body and our habits. And I find that there's a lot of amazing nervous system work out there that, there are like practices that we can do, somatic things like body-based things, which I do with my clients. But I actually like to start even before all of that. I like to start with circadian rhythm habits, just getting the habits of the nature of your body down first. And then all of the other nervous system regulation stuff comes a lot easier. You don't have to be doing nervous system practices all day, every day. Again, like
Mhm.
mindset work, it's like, oh, do I need to do I need to be doing breath work all day long? Right? Like, do
Mhm.
I need to be doing this all day long? And when we have some of these basic health habits down first, it's like it opens us up and it makes us have resilience and adaptability, and I like to call it like emotional agility
Mm-hmm.
more than just resilience, because sometimes people think of resilience as just like having kind of like like armor up, and that's not what I want. I actually want the armor like down and but having a strong enough core to be able to flow with, so the agility piece, flow with the emotions that you have and work with them skillfully to be able to have the kind of relationships that you want to have.
I love this. Let's break this down if you're open to giving us some examples. When you say circadian rhythms, and I'm thinking sleep, and
Yeah.
and so talk to us. Can you give us some more examples around how somebody can be tracking
Mhm.
their system, both
Totally.
from a nervous system, but overall these kind of fundamental pieces that you're referring to? Because I mean, just before you answer this, I'm aware that many of us are focused on our agenda or our to-do list or our goals or our tasks as a parent or a professional. And it does take a bit of shifting attention inward and paying attention. And so yes, so talk to us here.
Okay, I have so many things. So yes, so you bring up like the to-do list, and I find that that just reminds me of a lot of times people ask me about time management. And they're like, "I need better time management." And I'm like, "You actually don't need better time management. You need better energy management, because not all tasks take require the same amount of energy. Some things that we have on our to-do list actually give us more energy. And so if we can get more clear on like what things are we doing throughout our day that drain our energy, what things actually give us more energy. So not all things on the to-do list are created equal as far as energy, but also not all rest is created equal as well. So things that you consider resting, those actually might drain you more. So, depending on the person, like for some people at a certain point in time, sitting and watching Netflix for 2 hours is actually going to give you more energy. Like it's going to replenish your energy. And for some people, it's going to drain your energy more. And so, and it depends on the context and stuff too. But I really like to start with, how do we work with our energy levels, and kind of think of it as, we can kind of think of it more as like a game so that it's not so serious. Sometimes we think of health and wellness and all of those kinds of things like we have to take this very seriously and we have to prioritize it and all of that kind of thing. And then the other thing that you were saying in there is, you were talking about how we have to go internal. We have to kind of turn the focus internal and be more essentially intentional, right? About our life and our
Or just
living.
even noticing, right? Like I
Yeah.
think so many of us have this like I'm a machine attitude when I'm not like everyone else. Maybe I need a customized
Yes.
plan.
Yes. Yes, totally. And so I have, I'll talk about this at the end, but I have this framework of energy archetypes, and we all have different types essentially. And so everyone's going to need something different at different points in time, and all of that kind of thing. And so that's what I help my clients with, is like, how do we actually do this for you? But I want to also mention, like, with these habits, sometimes we think of being on autopilot in our life as being a bad thing. And I do want to say that with these habits, my goal is actually to get them on autopilot for you. So autopilot doesn't have to be a bad thing. Autopilot can be amazing if it's the right habits. If it's the
Totally.
things that actually set you up for a regulated nervous system and like all of that kind of thing. And we can tweak those habits based on our, what we're experiencing at a certain point in our life and everything. But getting these circadian rhythm habits, which I'll go into more specific examples there, but getting those things automated is my goal for my clients. Because I've had clients who, actually one of my very first clients, she was like, I think about health and like what I should be doing for my health so much. And she's like, I think about like, my body and food and all the things so much that if I were to put that, all of that mental energy that I think about that stuff with, if I were to put that into curing cancer, I could have cured cancer by now.
Wow.
So again, my goal is for people to think about their health as little as possible so that they can free up their mental energy and capacity and bandwidth for their relationships and for their like juicy life, essentially. So, all of that to say, the circadian rhythm habits that I'm talking about, people have probably heard of circadian rhythms. They probably think about sleep mostly, right? But there are a lot of things that go into our circadian rhythms. Essentially, your circadian rhythm is the nature of your body as it relates to the sun. So the sun comes up every morning, goes down every night, and it also those times actually change throughout the year. So a lot of the work that I do with my clients is seasonality too, and shifting habits around, just tweaking them a little bit based on the season once we have them automated. So obviously sleep is a big thing here, and we do a lot of sleep hygiene things. And so one thing I'll say for that is getting to bed at or around the same time every night is one of the most important things that you can do for your health overall. And I would say, so getting to bed at the same time every night, not necessarily getting to bed as early as possible, though I do like to have my clients get to bed, at a reasonable hour, because our body starts to detox and do all the things it needs to do by like around 10 p.m. if we're asleep by then. But some people have later sleep times, and that's totally fine too. There are different chronotypes and that kind of thing. But getting to bed at the same time every night, rather than being like, okay, tonight I'm going to get to bed early, and then the next night I'm going to get to bed 2 hours later, and then the next night I'm going to try to get to bed early again. That's not what we want. So bedtime is really important. And then what we do in the morning is also really important for our circadian rhythms. And now I'm not telling you that you need to have a 4-hour morning routine or anything like that, but I work a lot on what do we need to do to make it so that you feel awake in the morning. Now, we start the night before, because sometimes people are like, oh, I'll just wake up earlier and then I'll get to bed earlier tomorrow night. That's not how sleep works. Like, if we're trying to get to bed earlier, we need to just tweak it like 15-minute increments at a time. We're not, that's how sleep works. But then we go into, how do we make it so that our morning routine gives us the kind of energy that we want to have? And our morning routine can make it so that we also fall asleep easier at night based on our circadian rhythms. So there's a lot there. And then also exercising throughout the day is also really important for our circadian rhythms. So we do those very basic habits before we even go into nervous system regulation, emotional agility, nutrition even, right? Like we focus on all of that stuff before that. And I find that once my clients get the first 4 habits down, their life changes exponentially. Even if they were like pretty good about it before. It's wild. So that's where we start.
I appreciate that. It's so fundamental to our well-being. And I think oftentimes we get creative or play around, right? Oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or, these type of things that.
Yes, that work hard, play hard mentality. Yeah.
Totally. And I can appreciate the propensity for that, especially in more Western culture, and just maximizing, optimizing, and what can you fit in a day, and people who even feel some level of anxiety. Or like, I have a client, I work with a couple, and she's a physician, and she just has a pattern. If I don't work hard, I can't actually relax at night. Like, I can't actually feel like it's like this guilt or something, like I haven't done enough. And that's a productivity marker that I appreciate is important. And also, it's not, perhaps ironically, she's a physician, right? And that this turning towards, I kind of like to use that analogy, I'm sure you've heard of, this big rock, right? Prioritizing the real important things in our life and our system, that, as you're saying, giving structure to our rhythms, our energy, that support our regulation, that support our agility, that support just our energy, and also our capacity for relationship or being in the world in a way that we want to make a difference.
Totally. Yes. I always say that structure creates freedom. So too much structure can obviously be like a jail cell. Like, but having structure with your habits specifically creates more creativity, more capacity, more bandwidth. You know, this client that you're referring to, if you start with the rest and now we can all also over rest.
Yeah.
So that is, I want to make that very clear. Like we can over rest and that can be draining. So that's a thing. We'll put that to the side for now. Yeah. So like the paradox is that the more you take care of yourself and you do these basic circadian rhythm habits and taking care of yourself, the more productive you actually are. And so a lot of times we think we can kind of convince our minds can kind of convince us of anything, right? Where we're like, I just need to push through. I need to do more, do more, do more. When if you had the rest and you had the kind of habits down that you needed and they were automated so you didn't have to think about them a ton, you would have more capacity and you would be able to move quicker, and your brain, your executive functioning is actually improved. And so you can get so much more done in less time. And they've actually done studies. There's research on when you don't get enough sleep, everyone pretty much who didn't get enough sleep in these studies thought that they were not impaired at all.
Ah,
Which is terrifying, especially being like driving. It's real scary. But people literally thought that they weren't impaired at all. And the research shows that indeed, once they went through different like exercises and stuff, they were impaired for sure. Their executive functioning was impaired from not getting enough sleep. And so truly, 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 we have to prioritize these things if we want to be like optimizers, if we want to be like, even the people who are like who you're talking about, who are like optimizers, you got to do this stuff. Like this is the key. Do
yes.
that.
Which might go against some of the initial training, right? Like I'm very much supportive of the medical profession, and I'm also like I have friends and clients who are physicians, and just what they go through and what's
Oh,
required as far as sleep deprivation. It's just quite astounding that it doesn't seem so counterproductive for one's health and well-being.
totally.
So as it relates, would you be willing to share a little bit about how this can start to impact relational dynamics?
Totally, totally. Yes. So, I mean, you can look back again at conflict and think about, all right, when I wasn't getting enough sleep, was I grumpier? Was I more irritable? Was I more triggerable? Right? The answer is typically yes, if you have like a decent amount of self-awareness, right? Which your listeners do, right? Because they listen to you. So you can kind of see this for yourself, where when we're not taking care of ourselves as individuals, it's going to leak out into all areas of our lives, and especially in relationships, because that's where we get the most triggered, right? Is in relationships. I can't think of any other area of life that we would be more triggered than in relationships. Even if it's work, it's usually a work relationship like dynamic.
Mm.
And so my clients, I often find that once they start to do the work that I do with them, they find that they are much more resilient. They're able to kind of take that bird's eye view. So we always talk about in terms of emotions and communication and that kind of thing, we want to take more of that bird's eye view, look at ourselves and what's going on with our own dynamic of our emotions, how they're being triggered and all of that kind of thing, and then also looking at our partner or whoever we're relating to. But if we don't have the health stuff down,
Mm.
we don't have as much capacity to be able to take that. We're more myopic.
Mhm.
Like we have that tunnel vision of like, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right. There's no broader view that I can take here. When we just don't have as much bandwidth and capacity, that's just where our tendency is going to go. Now we want to do both, because we also when we're in like there are going to be times in our life where we don't have as much capacity, right? And so we want to do the work of being able to relate with our partner even when we don't have capacity. But the more we can build that capacity, the better, right? The more we're going to be able to create a foundation of safety with our partner.
Yes. I mean, when you're talking about feeling triggered or even tunnel vision, I'm hearing more of the fight, flight, or freeze reactivity in the nervous system. And also what we know about that typically is so many of our faculties are not available to us because all of the energy and blood and is going towards the either extremities to run or fight or just even shut down. Like we are not actually operating. A lot of things are offline, right? We're in a very like limited way of functioning.
Totally. And it's interesting, the energy archetypes that I talk about, your tendency when you're triggered typically relates to your energy archetype. So if you have more of the leisure enthusiast archetype, which tends toward more resting, but that rest can actually be more draining, your tendency might be more to shut down in the face of conflict and just kind of like, head in the sand, ostrich, like just avoid. If you have more of the tendency toward the burnt out goal getter, that's another one of the archetypes. You've got more fire in your type, and you might tend toward more of the fight, the irritability, the grumpiness, the like, I just want to like attack here, right? And if you have more of the whirlwind, that is more of the tendency of like anxious. I need to figure this out right now. Need to figure it out. Need to figure it out. Anyone can go into any of those archetypes, but typically we have one that is the most prominent for us. And so I utilize Ayurveda and the doshas and helping to balance some of those things. So if you have more of that fire in your constitution, there are things that we can do in terms of practices and even like foods that we're eating that can help to balance your fire and like calm down that fire so that you aren't as irritable, grumpy, frustrated, wanting to control everything, if that's your tendency.
Would you give us some examples of how to work with, at least, I know you've said you have 5, but the 3 that you've listed?
Oh yeah, so there's three energy archetypes. They're influenced by 5 elements in the Ayurvedic tradition.
Okay, got it.
Yes. So yeah, the fire archetype, I'll just call it the fire archetype. That one, if we want to balance that out, we got to think cooling, soothing, and because the fire archetype is more like controlling and wanting to have kind of that like type A, everything needs to be a certain way, kind of an attitude. We also want to bring in play. So those are the three things. The fire one tends to take themselves very seriously. And I say this, that's my archetype. And so I have to laugh a lot. And so I do. And my work is to not take myself so seriously, especially when it pertains to my relationships, right? When I take myself too seriously, it's like that is a recipe for disaster in my relationships. And so what we want to do is the soothing, cooling, and play. And so play, obviously, that has to do with bringing in more fun in your life. But the soothing and cooling can be practices. It can be like just getting in the water, like splashing cold water on your face, especially during the summer when it's hot and literally tempers are also up when it's hot out. There are foods that we can eat too, though, that help to cool us down, like cucumber, watermelon, things that you think of as like more summer foods, or tropical foods like coconut is really cooling. Those kinds of things can be helpful too for cooling us down, which is awesome. So that's an example of that fire archetype. Yeah. Do you have a question?
And is there anything that a significant other might be able to support when you say soothing?
Oh,
Because I mean,
yes.
when somebody's in a fight,
Love
it's so
this.
easy to get defensive or want to like
Yes.
match it. And what you're really suggesting is bringing some cooling energy to the dynamic. Can you give an
Such a good question. Yes. And I have an answer for this because I have to do this with my husband. We both have the fire archetype as our as our most prominent one. I have asked him to put a hand on my heart.
wow?
So just come up to me, put a hand on my heart, and he can say he has asked me to ask him in those circumstances, is your heart open?
Hmm.
For me, I'm like, it's got to be body based for me. Like, it's got to be somatic. So, like, put your hand on my heart. That's because I can twist. If you ask me something that's mental, I will twist it and I'll be like, yeah, my heart's open, but is your heart, like, it's just, I'm like, it's gotta be body based for me. So I've asked him to do that and it works like a charm every time. He comes
Get more honest answers from the body.
Exactly, exactly. It immediately gets me, oh, I'm out of my mind. I'm into my body. I'm into my heart. And that's the most, that's the antidote to the fire for sure, is just like, okay, getting in the heart. Because the fire is in the mind, right? Like the wanting to control things and all of that. That's all in the mind. And so when we can come down into the heart, that can be really effective. And so it can be different for everyone. Again, like my husband and I do something different for each other. And that's another thing is like, don't think that it has to look the same for you and your partner.
Mm-hmm.
Ask each other what you actually need in terms of that conflict. And what is it that actually would work for you to bring yourself into the state of being that you want to be in those circumstances?
And even to observe, right? I've noticed that when my husband and I will take a stroll around the neighborhood, it is so supportive for his system. And
Yes.
I mean, we've been together almost 20 years and it's just become even that much more crystallized without us talking. Because some people have a hard time articulating, so sometimes noticing. But he has been able to tell me that just like a gentle kind of touch on the arm or back, just saying it's going to all be okay or something like that, that very soothing comment. So I do think it's important to prompt and just have the opportunity to learn more about what would feel
Totally.
good. Okay.
Totally. Yes. Yes.
Do you
Exactly.
want to name the other two just for people?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So then there's the leisure enthusiast who we love. We love these people. They're like the teddy bear that they're the kind of person that if you're struggling, like you want a hug from them. They're amazing. They're super caring. And they're like shadow side. The tendency is to over rest or rest in ways that don't actually serve them, that don't actually like bring their energy up. And we can all do that. But this person has more of that tendency. That's my secondary tendency. So like I feel this, like, my tendency is to do the burnout thing and then fall into this, where it's like, now I can never move again. And I'm on the couch and I'm never moving again. Right. And there's like an over fullness here. There's a tendency for over indulging with eating, with different numbing practices, like I was talking about at the beginning of this call. Like even reading can be a numbing.
Totally.
We think of reading as like good, but everything can be good and everything can be unhelpful also. So the thing that we want to think of here is like invigorating. So what things are actually going to make me feel more invigorated here? And lightness. We really want to bring in lightness here because there's a heaviness, there's a density with this type. And so if you're resonating with this type, bringing in lightness, bringing in like an invigoration of things. And then spontaneity can also be helpful here. So we were talking about how structure is really helpful. This type, we do still want to bring in some spontaneity. So if you're doing the same thing every single day, we do want to bring in some different things and surprise yourself, surprise your partner if they are more in this like, okay, we're going to go do this right now. And they might have some resistance to it, but then they might be like, thank you so much for helping me with this.
Yes.
I do that. Like that's, like I said, this is my secondary tendency, and my husband's secondary tendency is the whirlwind one that we'll get to. And so when he can like drag me out of this and get me to go do something fun together, that is great for me.
Nice. And that. And that.
Yeah,
And self-activating is hard when one's in this kind of state. So is there a
totally.
small move that one can do individually that
Yeah, totally. I would go with something very, very small, because we want to honor where we are too. We want to meet ourselves where we are, and not a lot of times people who I work with who have this tendency are like, okay, I need to do high intensity interval training workouts so that I can figure. And I'm like, no, no. Then you're going to fall back into this hard. Like you're not going to do that and then go into that would be the
energy management?
Yeah, that's like the all, and then you're going to fall back into the nothing. So let's just do a little teeny tiny step. Like I literally had a client who had such low energy. She would, wake up in the morning, work as much as she could. She would work from bed. She had literally no energy at all. It was super sad. And she had all these like, she's a wonderful person, and she had all these big dreams and goals and passions and stuff, but she just had no energy. And she was like, okay, I'm learning about Ayurveda, and Ayurveda says that I need to do more of the invigorating practices and stuff. And I'm like, well, hang on here. Because when you do that, you are kind of perpetuating the cycle of all or nothing. And so she was in her bed as much as she possibly could be. I was like, all I want you to do is get up out of bed in the morning, not go do a high intensity workout, go sit somewhere else and meditate. That's all. Just get out of bed and you can sit somewhere. You could even lie on the ground, whatever. But let's start there. And so we really, really, really do want to meet ourselves where we are in that and take those baby steps. That's what creates automation too. Getting these habits on autopilot is we have to start small. When we try to overhaul our whole lives, that's when things get wonky, and that's what I was trying to do for like 10 years of my life is overhaul everything. Oh, it's the new year. Oh, I'm going to wait till Monday and then I'll start and I'll overhaul everything. Oh, once this happens, then I'll start. But when we can just start really, really, really small. So take stock, when people who are listening right now, take stock. Where are you right now in this? Maybe you're not so depleted that you're like in bed all day, but are you working out like some days? Maybe you can just bring in, I'm going to move my body every day for 5 minutes or 1 minute. Really like super small, and we can build on that.
Thank you. It's so important. And when you were talking earlier about building in and automating, I was reflecting on some of my self-care habits that are very consistent. And it's almost as if, Hadlee, they carry me sometimes.
Yes.
And I'm just like, okay, I'm doing the thing, but it's like it doesn't take a lot of activation energy because I'm already got the groove and I'm just kind of following the groove.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes I'm excited and I want to do it. And other times I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm just doing it and it's happening, but it's like part of my normal rhythm.
Totally. Yes. I have been talking to my clients recently because they're like, I have so many people tell me, if they've lost weight or if they start seeming happier to people that they're friends with or that they're in relationship with, they're like, they keep telling me that they're so proud of me and that it must have taken so much willpower and motivation. And they're like, it hasn't though. They're like, no, I was using willpower and motivation before I started working with Hadlee, and now the paradox is that like I'm not now, but it's actually effective now.
Yes.
So yeah, really, I love what you said where it's carrying you. And that's my goal, is that, the net expenditure of energy with these habits that I work on with my clients is that you actually get more energy from them. So like maybe you're expending like a tiny bit of energy and that drains your energy levels a little bit. But the net effect is that it's actually increasing your energy, because you are not, the energy that you're putting in is so low because it's automated. Just there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm not saying I have my whole life dialed in, but I have these things. Okay. So I don't want to lose for people who are super curious about the third one.
Yes. Totally. So this is our depleted whirlwind. And so for those of us who have more in the elements that it carries in Ayurveda, is the elements of like wind and air and space. So this is the kind of person that is going all the time, that really wants to make things happen, and might get really like distracted really easily, might be like ping-ponging all over the place, essentially. And if they have like a really depleted phase, they might kind of crash. And their tendency of crashing is more like a hollow, empty kind of a feeling. Whereas, the leisure enthusiast, there's like an overfullness there, like feeling heavy and dense. The depleted whirlwind is more of a weak feeling, a hollow feeling,
I gave it away.
Exactly. Yes. You've given it everything away and there's nothing left, essentially. So what we want to do with that, what we want to think about there, is like building, nourishing, and structure. Structure creates freedom again. These are the people who have this tendency are more of like our creative types too. They have more of that, like that spontaneity, that creativity, that ability to see things that like other people might not, like see patterns and different things that other people might not be able to see. And so there are these amazing things about this person, and they can get depleted really, really, really easily because they don't have as much of that, like that structure in place, and that grounding, and even like their physiology tends to be like a lighter physiology and stuff too. And so what we want is doing the things that can really ground us. So whereas the leisure enthusiast might need someone to be like, let's do something spontaneous, this type needs to do less spontaneous things. And so if you have a partner who's more this way, you can support them in being like, oh, let's create some structure in our schedule. Like maybe we go to bed at the same time every night, and just start with that. I find that this type also has sometimes issues with insomnia. And so going to bed at the same time every night is not their tendency. Like they tend to be all over the place, but when we can make it the same time every night, that really helps with the insomnia. There are other things that we can do for that too, which I work on with my clients, but really bringing in, okay, grounding. How can we, even doing the hand on the heart for this type too could be really helpful, or hand on the shoulders and pushing down on, so that you feel really like, oh, okay, yes, I'm here. I'm not in the
Present time, present space.
in my body. I'm on the ground. Here we are. Lying down on the ground can also be great for this type.
Or like feet, right? Foot contact, or
oh yeah, massaging the feet. If you want to support your partner in this, like you can massage their feet. Actually, I have my clients massage their own feet before bed if they're having insomnia.
Nice.
Either falling asleep, or if they tend to, it's really interesting. My clients, this has been like a no-fail thing for my clients. If they wake up in the middle of the night, if that's like their tendency, it's wild. That's not my tendency, so I haven't actually really experienced this. But if they massage their feet before bed with oil, do an oil massage before bed, and that's one of the habits that I coach my clients into for nervous system regulation. Massaging their feet before bed with oil, and then like maybe putting socks on or whatever so that the oil doesn't get all over the bed. That is like the number one thing that makes it so that they don't wake up in the middle of the night. For whatever reason, it's super effective.
I love that.
Yeah. So that and speaking of which, the self massage with oil, big believer in that for all of the types, but especially for this type to really ground down your nervous system. In Ayurveda, the word for oil, the Sanskrit word for oil, which is the language of Ayurveda, you can kind of think of it as like how Latin was like the language for, the original language, in Greek and Latin culture and stuff. The Sanskrit word for oil is sneha, and that is also the word for love. And so sweet. So we're literally, if we rub oil on our bodies, we're adorning our bodies in love. And so that's been the greatest practice for self-love that I have found for my clients. If they have like really critical, ways of talking to themselves or whatever, that practice, game changer.
Beautiful. And as we look at relational context too, just even being able to, if there's a part of the body for our partner, like what a beautiful way to express love if we're in that place, is being able to offer more of that. Yeah. Well, Hadlee, you've offered so much here. I'm so grateful for how actionable, how really you're trying to give people structure and habit that can be integrated into their life so that it can support every domain. And particularly, I know we've focused on relationship here, but
yeah.
How would you like to encourage people to get to know you, your work better? What would you like to?
Yes, absolutely. I mostly hang out on Instagram. That's my preferred social media. So DM me on there for sure. I love chatting with people. Like, relationships are kind of my favorite my favorite thing. I love building community. So DM me on there. I also offer free discovery sessions for people if you want to take it further and work with me. And so I can give you the link for that. And then my energy archetype quiz, if you're like, okay, I got to figure out which type I am so that I can really take this to the next level. I have a quiz that I can give you to put in the show notes as well, if you'd like. It's also in the bio on my Instagram. But then once you take that quiz, I also have like a full library for each type. Nice. So there's all these resources that are specific to each type. So you can go binge those resources as well.
Oh my gosh. I will make sure to have the links to all that you've mentioned, your social media on Instagram, as well as the discovery call and the quiz for learning your energy archetype. And then is this also on your website or?
Yes. Yeah. My website is happyhealthyhadlee.com. So you can access all of that there as well.
And how do you spell Hadlee?
Yes. It's Hadlee. So it's different from how most people spell it. So Happy Healthy Hadlee with 2 E's.
I love it. It just rolls off your tongue. It's so cute. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you again. It's been such a pleasure to have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always so fun to get to talk to you.
Thank you for listening to today's conversation with Hadlee Garrison. I hope this episode helped you see how regulating your body and tending to your energy can open up more space for emotional connection and relational safety. If you would like to explore Hadlee's work, including her energy archetypes quiz, or if you want to access the 12 relationship principles to strengthen your love, the free relationship guide, you can find those links on today's show notes. And if you want more guidance in strengthening your relationship skills, deepening your connection with your significant other, you can explore many more resources on drjessicahiggins.com. Until next time, I hope you take great care.